Hogstye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Hogstye. It is I, Alex, it is Steve, it is Dave. Welcome to the show. The team is back in Ashburn, working out, getting ready for the season. It's not OTAs anymore, it's minicamp now, because we have to have different names for doing this, basically the same thing every time. That is the way the CBA works, right, Steve?
Yeah, that is the way the CBA works.
Right. Different names, same job.
Well, basically, some of them are voluntary and some of them are not. That's what
Right.
it boils down to. They don't get paid for any of them. I mean,
Unless you're
press me or
Aaron Rodgers,
confuse me.
then apparently you do whatever you want.
Yeah.
As we were kind of discussing before the show, it's not a big controversy, but come on.
It's not that, yeah, I mean, it's not, yeah, I don't really care that much, but I just think, generally speaking, if you are a pro football player and your
Right.
one job is to play football from September through December or January, which isn't that tough
No.
for an obscene amount of money, the least you could do is show up for like the 15 or 20 days in the off season. You have to be there.
Right.
It ain't that hard.
No, it's really not.
That's what really
Especially-
annoyed me about
generally has
Chase
something-
Young.
What was
Well,
that?
that was what really annoyed me about Chase Young is when he blew off a bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah,
sorry,
definitely.
Dave, go ahead.
That's just quarterbacks out there.
Yeah. We're having a little technical difficulty hearing Dave
We will
there.
talk our way through it, as
Yes.
always. Yeah, Dave is shaking his head at like his bad connection, and it's as if he has only himself to blame for having crappy Wi-Fi at his recording
Yeah.
location.
Well, it's not that I got crappy Wi-Fi. It's the location which I need to be, so I have the proper quiet around me, so we don't pick up everything else going on in the household. I'm like a mile away from our Wi-Fi, and our booster that I had
Right.
is not working anymore, so I got to replace that. I've had to replace that for like the last 2 months now. I haven't gotten through that yet.
I would be willing to bet that the real problem is that you're in Philadelphia.
I mean, they're the home of Comcast, so there should be good
we
Wi-Fi.
are.
But Philadelphia
great.
is a dump, and there's nothing good about the city of Philadelphia, but possibly besides the exception of the Earl family. But beyond that, there's nothing there, and so if it's in Philadelphia, it's going to be crappy, and it's as simple as that.
Hey, listen, it could be worse. It could be East Rutherford, New Jersey.
That's true. Or any part of New Jersey, really.
I agree.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, New Jersey is not worse than Philadelphia.
Oh, it is.
There's nothing. I've been in both places. There's nothing worse than Philadelphia.
I've been in both places many times too.
There's a reason
Everything is
everybody
worse
calls
than New
Philadelphia the city of hate. Or maybe
Now,
it's just me,
well, that's just because we're not understood up here. That's all that is.
You can keep telling yourself that if you like. I mean, it makes you feel better. I'm down with it. It's fine.
I'll put it this way. It's the one thing that's great about Philadelphia up here is that the town, the city still gets destroyed for the whole building of the Santa Claus and stuff like that. When you have like Cleveland, who throws glass bottles on the field, and Los Angeles, you actually have gang wars in the stadium half the time. It's like,
listen, the people of Philadelphia.
But we just booed Santa Claus. That's all we did.
They've lit their share of cars on fire when teams lose too. Don't downplay it, okay?
Yeah.
Hey, listen.
I mean, they destroyed the city that last championship they got.
They did. That's true.
Well, they had to because they greased all the poles. They weren't able to climb up the poles anymore.
Right.
So they had to do something. So if we can't climb up poles, we'll just flip cars and destroy them. That's all.
And yes, it is true that a Giants fan was murdered in the parking lot of Dodger Stadium, but but it's not as bad as Philadelphia. That's all I'm saying.
Let's see. Philadelphia is one of the only few stadiums that actually has their own court inside the actual stadium.
Yeah.
They did it. They did in the Vet. Did they have one
Yes.
in this current
No,
stadium?
They still. I don't think they have the prison, but they do have the court.
I think they have something like that still in the link, but the Vet, they had everything.
I can guarantee you, if there's a court, then there are holding cells somewhere. I mean, a prison in my world is different than just, a county jail. I mean, a prison is run by the state, and that's where you go when you're convicted.
Right. It is just holding cells.
The drunks at the Philadelphia Stadium are going to a holding cell for a few hours.
Although I think at the vet it was just legit prison. They just left them there for
just leave them there for the entire season.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh God. Well, I'm just so sorry. I mean, Dave, we'd welcome you down here in Texas.
I'm not so sure I'm gonna do Texas either. Maybe I'll go down to South. Maybe as far as south as I would desire to go is South Carolina, along that line right there. That's about it.
I thank the good Lord every day that I decided to move to Texas.
That's the first time Steve has badmouthed Texas more times than I'd have, which is just wild. So
Alex, I'm just babbling, okay? I don't really mean any of this. In case you all don't know me, I'm just babbling.
Yeah. So, Steve, you did want to talk about Jerry West passed away today.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with football, but Jerry West passed away. That we're recording this on Wednesday, June 12th. He passed away today, and I'd just like to say rest in peace to a legend and an icon. He was a key part of the Los Angeles, the most critical part of the Lakers franchise in every respect. He was Hall of Fame player. He is responsible for putting together both the Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant championship runs.
Mm-hmm.
All-time legend. He's the logo on the ball for the logo on the NBA logo. 86 years old. Rest in peace.
They talked about changing the logo and replacing him with somebody else at one point.
They were talking about replacing it with Kobe. Is what they were talking about.
Was it Kobe? Okay. Yeah. No. All due respect, you don't replace the logo like that. That's
there's not a bigger Kobe fan than me, and I was against that. You got to keep Jerry West as the logo. End of story.
It's just kind of neat that they used a real person for it, because like baseball didn't. They just drew a little outline of a stick figure. And
what's funny is like the NBA doesn't really admit it. I mean, it's not. They don't say this is. They don't say this is Jerry West. It just is Jerry West.
Well, they don't admit it because of how much money he would have had to be.
Well, yeah. Then it'd be a name and likeness thing. He'd have had a trademark lawsuit against him.
Yeah, but few sports have real legends like that. Guys who had multiple championships as both players, coaches. Like you put a guy like Gibbs up there because he did it in multiple sports.
But the difference with Jerry West is that he did it. He was a Hall of Fame player,
right?
And he's probably the most successful NBA executive ever. Celtics fans would argue, what's his face up there in Boston? Somebody help me. The original coach, up there.
The guy from who was 70s, like he went against Jerry West.
It was way before the 70s, and he was there forever. But with that guy aside, Red Auerbach.
There, yep.
It's between those two guys, and so the unique thing about Jerry West is maybe unique in sports, if you really think about it, is he won championships as a player, Hall of Fame player, and then he was an even better executive. And by the way, he won more championships with Golden State later. He turned around Memphis and made them a playoff team out of nothing. He was really, really great. So,
and he was a coach for a lot of years too. So
yeah, he was. He was a better exec than a coach, probably.
Sure.
But yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Well. Yep. Rest in peace, Jerry West. He is a legendary NBA person. That is for sure.
Absolutely.
The NFL doesn't have anyone who's done it that way. Like I said, they've had guys who I think have been successful players and successful coaches. I don't know of anyone who's done both in the Hall of Fame caliber way.
It's not coming to me right off the top of my head, at least.
Maybe Mike Ditka, was he a Hall of Fame player? I know he made Pro Bowls.
I think the Hall of Fame tight end. Yeah. But I think is it Landry? Not Landry.
No, Landry didn't play.
Am I thinking of?
But even Ditka, you guys got to understand. I mean, he won. Mike Ditka won one championship with the Bears.
Right.
I mean, right. Jerry West won 6 with Magic and Kareem and 5 with Kobe.
Right. No, I understand that. But I'm just like even thinking of a guy who was a player and a successful coach.
Yeah, Ditka may be the closest one.
Yeah. Yeah, at least that comes to the top of my mind.
Although I'm looking at his Ditka's Wikipedia bio because it's always right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a 5-time Pro Bowler. I don't see Hall of Famer in here though. I could be wrong. He is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, but that's definitely for coaching.
Right.
Maybe not for playing.
Right.
Yeah.
Somebody correct me if we're wrong, but I think that was it.
Well,
So
I'm looking up one thing. It says was George Hollis.
George Hollis. Yeah.
Yeah, as a player and a coach and a manager in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who was dead long before any of us were born.
But, yeah, pretty much. Right. Oh, trust me, I had to look that up to make sure.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
We should have asked no one from Tampa.
Yes.
I'm sure he watched him live.
Probably did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Football. Well, also, it's like the NBA is an interesting league because it's a lot younger than the NFL. Most of a lot of these legends are alive.
Yeah.
There's some that are dying off now, and obviously, like Wilt Chamberlain's been dead for a while. Didn't Bill Russell die just recently? Am I wrong about that?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
Last few years.
But there's a lot of these guys are alive, and so now the original generation and like Jerry West are starting to die off.
Right.
And we lost Kobe, but most of the stars are around.
I mean, the NBA was formed in 49, 50, so.
It almost died off, and so like the stars are.
Right. And there were different basketball leagues before that, but no one really counts them. So.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, the NBA is like the old AFL, technically age-wise, because that's, 60?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's not a bad comparison.
Yeah. All right. So, there's not a whole lot of news that's been going on with the NFL today. We made our little joke about Aaron Rodgers, but it's been fairly quiet for the league-wide stuff. But not OTAs, minicamp has been going on again. Washington's got the thing that excites me the most, another kicker battle going. They've invited in a bunch of guys from the United Football League. They brought in the guy from DC, McCrane. Steve is pretending to shoot himself right now.
But go ahead, Alex. Give us all the names that nobody but you've heard of.
I'm going to be quick. Bates and Schmidt are the two big names that they brought in. And it is Schmidt. It's SZMYT. That is how he spells Schmidt.
Say it again. How do you spell it?
S as in snake. Z, Zulu. MYT.
That's Schmidt?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, whatever, dude. I mean, I guess.
But these guys, those two came in for workouts. No one can sign till after this week from the UFL. But they came in for workouts, so I would fully expect at least one, if not both, those guys to be brought into training camp to compete for the job. Because the guy they brought in is not the guy.
They don't have a roster spot for multiple kickers. They have 90 signed, including what's the guy they signed? It started with a Z, Zamed or something like that.
It's just now I'm forgetting.
See, now you don't
Abdul
remember.
Or something.
No, it's not Abdul.
It's a Middle Eastern name.
It is a Middle Eastern name. It wasn't. You're gonna
make me. I thought it would start with an A.
Hold on, I have my chart. This is why we looked this up.
But
it's Ramiz Ahmed is his name.
Ramiz Ahmed.
Right.
So he is the 90th player. So they would have to cut a real player to bring in two kickers.
Well, they could cut Ramiz Ahmed.
Yeah, but then they're at 89 with one spot.
Oh yeah. I got you.
So they're not signing multiple kickers.
I mean, they definitely have bodies to spare. I don't think that's an issue. It's not like this roster is chock full of talent either.
No, but how many? But are you going to cut a real player to bring on like a bunch of kickers? I mean, I wouldn't. I'd pick one now and sign him. That's what I would do.
I mean, I'm just gonna pull up your roster right now. I'm gonna tell you a name I would happily cut.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me look at this for a second, and I will just say Alex Akinbulu. Yeah, we'll cut him. Huh? Yeah, sorry, Alex. I literally just picked the first name on the list.
Random name. That's the way to manage a roster. Congratulations, Alex.
Yes.
I mean, look, yes, the team could obviously cut somebody. I just think, if they already know somebody's not going to make it, fine, have at it. But I would not cut a bunch of players to bring a whole roster of kickers to try out. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I didn't say a whole roster, did I?
Well, I wouldn't even bring more than one. I would have a tryout now and pick one. That's what I would. And if he sucks, then you can find one of these other unemployed kickers from the USFL.
Yeah.
Well, with all this defensive backs we have, someone like a Caillou Blue Kelly would be, I think, pretty expendable, wouldn't you think? I don't even know who that is.
Yeah.
I
don't even know who that is.
He's
probably
got
picking
a $4 million contract with guaranteed money.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So no, I don't think he's the one. If you want to pick a corner that nobody has heard of or cares about, go with AJ Woods or Nick Whiteside, one of those two guys. No guaranteed money.
All right, how about Demir Bird, a wide receiver? Anytime a guy has to share a number in camp, it's not high odds he's making the roster anyway.
It's not good. Yeah, he is sharing a number, and he doesn't have guaranteed money either.
Yeah.
So what? So of all these anonymous kickers, Alex, who are the ones that are the best ones?
The two good ones are going to be Schmidt and Bates. Those are the two guys who have hit
change the pronunciation for Schmidt's name to make it right.
Schmidt.
Let's write this down. Hold on. Okay, what is it again?
SZMYT.
Write this down to look at it.
Might?
Because I think he's pronouncing his own name wrong.
SZMYT.
I would have figured it was Smites. Or Smite, rather.
I would say Smite. How about Smite?
I like Smite, but
let's go with that. Let's go with Smite.
SZ combo is such a weird one, isn't it?
But let's go with Smite. I think that's better. Okay.
Because obviously I have a Z and an S in my name, but we have vowels separate them. That helps.
And your name is pronounced like it's spelled.
Right. And this is also a weird one. He's got a Y as his only vowel in his name.
Well, you know who else has a weird name is Brett Favre, which by all accounts should be pronounced Favre.
Should be Favre.
Yeah.
So I'm declaring that. What's his first name?
Oh, I'd have to double check.
Okay. Well, Schmidt is now Smite.
Yeah.
That's what we're gonna do from now on.
Yes.
Well, I'll tell you what. If we get passes to go to training camp, and if he's on the roster, I'll talk with him. I'll let him know the proper pronunciation for his name, and he needs to start saying that from now on.
Yes, that would be good. It would get us thrown right out, but it'd be worth it.
Yeah, and you know what? And you know what? He might even turn around and go, at least someone finally said my name the right way. I've been saying the other way because I gave up. I was like, well, you can talk to Steve about that.
Full name is Andre Eric Schmidt. Is what he claims his full name is.
Okay.
He's just incorrect. Okay.
Nice.
But cannon for a leg, I will say that, because and very accurate. Both him and Bates hit 60 plus. And I think Schmidt was over 90% accuracy rating in the UFL. So if those are the things you care about with a kicker, I think he's the guy.
Well, I will say this: if any of these people were good, they would already be in the NFL.
Well, look at Aubrey. Look at Aubrey last year. He was in the UFL, or actually XFL, one of those two the year before, and he came in the Cowboys. He was one of the best kickers, and in fact, he didn't miss a field goal until about the last week of the season all year last year. He's one of the most accurate kickers last year.
Sun shines on a dog's butt sometimes.
That is the thing. Like, there is no it's a hard transition to kick from a minor league to the NFL.
Right.
The distance is the same. The uprights are the same. Everything's the same, and you don't get touched.
Yes.
The only thing that's different is maybe you have better snappers.
The truth is that I just think it's funny. You know who all these people are. That's all.
I just casually watch spring football. That's all.
Actually, Steve, you'll be surprised. There are quite a few fans that are pretty intrigued and excited about getting these kickers in. No lie about that either.
Yeah.
We've seen what we've had the last several years, after Dustin Hopkins.
They should have kept Dustin Hopkins.
They should
have done.
But it's been brutal ever since. So trust me,
They actually should have kept Graham Gano. That's who they should have kept.
That's the one that I didn't think he was going to work out anywhere. I'll be honest. He was not great when he was here. Gano, he was erratic. But he figured it out.
Sean Swisham was good. Remember him?
Swiss Ham, yeah. Swiss Ham was a good guy.
You want to call him Swiss Ham?
We're just renaming kickers.
We already renamed Benning, that guy Benning Potato,
Yeah. I wonder if Sean Sweesham's playing anywhere anymore. I doubt it. He's got to be gone.
No, I think he is playing somewhere.
Is
I'll
he
look
really?
that up, but keep going. Yeah, we'll.
All right. So that's one thing going on at OTAs. The other stuff that kind of was going on is or not. I keep saying OTAs. It's minicamp.
Oh, you're right. I'm wrong. He was last in the league with the Steelers in 2015.
Oh, it's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. Never mind. I'm totally wrong.
He is now selling cars somewhere.
Or something, yes.
Yeah. Real estate. Don't a lot of guys get into real estate after they leave the NFL? I don't know why.
Have I ever told you my Chris Hamburger story? Have I told this on the air before?
No, I don't think you did.
Okay, so I was at the Ford dealership in Upper Marlboro, Maryland, when I lived in D.C. in the 90s. And I'm waiting. I had a Ford at the time, and I was waiting on service. And all of a sudden, I hear over the loudspeaker, Chris Hamburger, line 2, or something like that. And I was like, wait, hold up a minute. And so I went and found the service manager. It's like, you don't understand. I'm a humongous Redskins fan. He was one of my heroes, my first football hero. And he was like, oh, yeah, he works here. He sells cars here. And he was like, he had a customer or something. But they wouldn't let me track him down. They were probably like, this idiot. Yeah, we're not gonna.
Steve, you don't understand. They probably dealt with that every day.
Probably,
yeah, right.
Yeah. But I didn't know I was gonna run into him at the Upper Marlboro Ford dealership.
Right. Not to be confused with the Lower Marlboro Ford dealership, 40 blocks away.
I'm talking about Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Is there a Lower Marlboro?
I think there is. That might be a Philly thing, actually. Is there a Lower Marlboro in Philly?
I don't think there's a Lower Marlboro in Maryland.
Fine.
There may be in Philly, but I don't know.
There's a Upper and Lower Marion up here.
Oh, that's what it is, yeah.
Now, I don't know if he's still, they don't everybody rush to the Ford dealer in Upper Marlboro. I don't know if that was a long time ago. He's probably not there anymore. Because Chris Hamburger's probably like 80.
I'm not crazy. Yes. It's south of Upper Marlboro.
Imagine that. It's south. I don't have any memory of Lower Marlboro whatsoever.
It exists. That's all I'll say.
Who knew?
Like the 4 people who live there, I guess.
That's all there is.
Yeah. So, one of the things that happened at OTAs today that's been getting a little bit of publicity is that the Jayden Daniels kind of spoke with the media, and I think people are.
Alex, this is a really, really, really lower. You made me think I'm crazy.
No, it is. It's south.
It's a ways away.
It's like the bottom of Maryland, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I lived in Upper Marlboro. I was like, I didn't know there's not a Lower Marlboro.
So Daniel spoke with the media. The team's been keeping him under wraps a lot. Am I crazy in that? Like, we're not seeing them push him like they did with Haskins and RG3 and am I crazy?
That's because you have a front office system that's actually running a proper organization up there right now. They're not putting the rookie in the forefront where he doesn't belong right now. You see more Bobby Wagner, Frank Louvu quite often. I mean, even Sam Cosmi's been kind of pretty prevalent in front of everyone. Of course, Terry McLaurin, but Jayden Daniels, he's been I don't want to say subdued, it's a bad word, but he's been kind of
he doesn't strike me as like a really outgoing, flashy personality type. He strikes me as a pretty humble dude. I mean, he made comments this week, I think today, the day we're recording, about how he gets to the work at 5:45 in the morning, kind of walks around the bubble by himself with just Luka McCaffrey, not by himself, and just to think and watch film and stuff. He doesn't strike me as a gregarious personality, say it like that. And I think that's for his benefit, because I totally agree, Dave. I mean, this is the way you handle a quarterback is not to throw him out there immediately.
Right.
You know, at least that's not the way to make it work for him. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because one of the knocks he had when he was at Arizona was, and I mean, he was young. I mean, obviously, right there was his first couple of years there was the players thought he was a bit immature, arrogant, and they
Mhm.
supposedly were happy that he was leaving the team. But of course, people want to hone in on that as we potentially go to draft him, and they ignore what LSU and the locker room was like there. And when he was there, he was an immediate leader. When he
Mhm.
continuously always had his players around him, he didn't champion himself above anyone on his team and so forth. So yeah, he's definitely a humble dude. I think so.
I think he's humble, and what I was impressed when I listened to his media session today, he definitely has already got the what it's coach speak, but with whatever you call it with players, that whole, yeah, man, we're just here working hard, yep, and we're just gonna do what we do, like he just talks in
It's just platitudes. Yeah, mindless
platitudes,
Yeah.
yeah,
platitude.
like that. I know it's boring and annoying, but I'd much rather a guy be that than like come out and say something stupid, right? Like
Right.
platitudes is better than dumb. Um, which there's my show title. I just came up with a show title.
Would you say platitudes are dumb? Is that what aren't dumb?
Platitudes are better than dumb.
Yeah, that's good. I like it.
Uh, so anyway, I thought that he gave like a good overall press conference. The Luke McCaffrey thing was interesting to me. It seems like he's quickly developing a rapport with Luke McCaffrey, and they're kind of spending a lot of time together, at least at the facility, is what he made it sound like.
Well, that's only good, right?
That's only
So
good.
I wrote a column about Luke McCaffrey this week. I did finally watch some of his film. Um, I think the possession receiver label is probably fair. That's
Mm-hmm.
not to say he can't develop into more than that, if you give him years or whatever. But what I saw of his college, and there's not a ton of his college film to find because he was at Rice, and Rice isn't exactly, a lot of
If
those
you'd
Rice
known we were
games are not.
drafting him, you could have gone and scout him in person. But
I could have, yeah, right.
yeah,
That's true. But so what I saw of him, great hands, competitive, fairly physical. Um, but despite his 40 time, didn't strike me as a burner. Didn't see him separate very much. Saw him run a lot of short to mid range patterns.
mm-hmm.
Didn't see him get open much. And when he was running downfield on downfield patterns, I mean, sometimes those corners of the team's Rice player are just terrible.
Right.
And that's why he was getting touchdowns. So I think, but he's a McCaffrey, so he has great coaching, probably smart, football smart.
Mm-hmm.
And he's clearly still developing, because for those of you who don't know this, he was a quarterback, basically
Right.
didn't make it as a quarterback and transitioned to wide receiver in 2022. So it's not like he's experienced. But like from a physical standpoint, I don't see like elite moves and agility like you would on some of the better receivers. So I think possession receiver is probably fair. So like number 3 slot receiver, big slot receiver could work.
Well, and look, I think people hear possession receiver and they think of it as a negative these days. But I think every team, you need a versatile set of receivers, right? Every team needs at least one good possession receiver. And
Right.
I think we've honestly lacked that here in Washington for the last, like, Terry McLaurin and John Dotson, they're like these good route runners. They get open. They're not possession guys, and they're not really true deep threat guys. Like, you don't just send them, on fly routes all the time.
Terry
Uh,
McLaurin is a pretty complete receiver. I
he's
think
as
you're
Okay.
complete
selling
as
him
we
short.
have, that's for sure. But
Yeah, I mean, he's a top 15 maybe wide
yeah,
receiver in the NFL. So top 15, top 20 maybe.
yes, in an era when there's a lot of good receivers, he is. Yes.
Yes.
Um, but he's not a possession guy. Like, like it's his size. He doesn't. that doesn't lend itself to possession.
You have to think of what we have to define what we mean by possession when we say it. I mean, for me, it's the guy who's going to do the shallow crossing routes into traffic, going to be able to get the 6-yard first down, going to be able to pull down the ball in spite of having people hanging on him. That's what, when I think of possession receiver, that's what I think of. And I think that is what Christian McCaffrey is.
I'll give names to kind of go with what I think. And the classic one for me is Rod Gardner here back in the day in DC. Pierre Garçon was kind of a possession receiver, although he was probably more like
he was more of an outside number one.
Yeah, or an outside complete guy. And you know who was one? Terrell Owens was kind of a possession receiver.
Terrell Owens was not a possession receiver, dude. In my opinion, he was one of the most complete receivers to ever play the game, in my opinion.
I mean, I think he's an elite receiver, but I think if you were to say what type of receiver was he, his best routes were like the 10-yard curl route, and
he had speed though. He was a freak of nature.
Yes.
I think
get open afterwards too.
I think the one player you guys might be overlooking more recent with the team was Jamison Crowder. Jamison Crowder was a very good possession. He was a guy that would take you underneath and get the short yardages, but he also had that burst and that speed to get separation once he had that reception. So he was able to get some good yards, some good yak yards and everything. So, I mean, I thought Jamison Crowder was pretty good. And Santana Moss, he's not exactly a possession receiver in how you're defining it, Steve. But I'm
not the authority on it.
No. I get that. But Santana Moss was a guy to where if you needed him to sit down underneath and get those tough yards, he did. If you needed him to burn a top off the defense, he did. And he was a fantastic route runner. I think Santana Moss was probably one of the more complete receivers we've had since Art Monk back in that.
Because he also had speed.
Absolutely.
I mean, he was obviously a lot smaller than Art Monk, but
sure. Yeah.
You know what? I would argue that both Crowder and Moss are more what you would call that like small slot receiver role than just possession. To me, a possession guy like finds a bit of open space and sits in it to get the ball. That's like what I think of.
And I think a lot of people will downplay possession receivers in the same way that they will downplay like game managing quarterback. There's a lot of value to a guy who's not going to drop balls. He's going to run the route he needs to. He's not afraid of having to go up against a 6'2", 240-pound linebacker.
He'll reliably get you 7-8 yards every catch.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, look at his dad to begin with, Ed McCaffrey. His first several years, that's all he was.
You're
was
right.
A possession receiver, sat down the zone and everything. It wasn't until later in his career he started being more of that guy that took, more of the post and the flag routes and stuff like that and everything. I mean, Ed McCaffrey was a poster child for being a possession receiver.
Yeah, that's
now,
a good point.
I will also add with your statement with Luke McCaffrey, which I don't disagree with. It kind of really puts the onus on Jahan Dotson to rebound from this previous year, from his drops and so forth, because if Luke McCaffrey is going to be that guy, and if he is going to be more that short yardage guy, and Terry McLaurin is going to be Terry McLaurin, it's pretty imperative that Jahan Dotson kind of picks up where he left off in his rookie year and ignore last year, because quite frankly, I was very disappointed to see how he played last year, and you know me, I was expecting a ton from him watching Penn State, so it was like I was highly disappointed with what he did last year. So it's kind of imperative that he turns that around this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he regressed last year.
Absolutely.
But Terry McLaurin is the X for sure. And so Jahan Dotson is your Z.
Right.
And so that really only leaves De'Ami Brown, who's the holdover from the prior administration, who has shown flashes, I think, here and there, but he's never had a season where he put it all together.
But talk about a guy who's not defined his role either.
Right. And so now you got McCaffrey and then a bunch of other like long shots and stuff. So, I mean, he has a chance. Now, the question I posed in the column was, if Luke McCaffrey's name was not McCaffrey, what would you reasonably expect out of him? Because you hear McCaffrey, you think Christian McCaffrey mainly, who's like an MVP caliber player.
He's going to be on the cover of Madden. Like his brother's on the cover now. So yeah.
And my conclusion was, I think he probably was overdrafted a little bit. I mean, you don't normally, if you take away the McCaffrey part, I think his skill set doesn't really scream 3rd round pick to me. It screams like 4th or 5th round pick to me. So that's the way I concluded it. But, it's also fair to point out that when you live in a house with Ed McCaffrey and Christian McCaffrey, you're going to know a little bit more about football than a lot of other guys. So you can't ignore that. It's not fair to just totally ignore that.
You're absolutely drafting him for some intangibles there, right? Like,
and Ed, his father was his coach in high school. I mean, the guy knows football.
Yeah, and I've heard interviews with him. He's very public about how his father helped him and his brother, learn the system, learn how to play, learn, what is the work ethic you need to make it. And I don't think
as a pro system from early on,
Yeah. Right. I don't think it's a coincidence that it's Jayden Daniels and Luke McCaffrey getting in 1-2. I don't know if it's that order every time, but they're the two guys getting into the building first.
It's a pleasure to see guys take it seriously.
Yeah,
instead of driving a Lamborghini around and being into club,
right?
Show up at, this is your livelihood, and this is how you can make it,
right,
to infinite wealth, and so take it seriously. And those two guys are.
Now I see, and I think that's a difference in terms of general managers like Adam Peters. They'll overdraft a guy with pedigree. They'll overdraft a guy that, in terms of his upbringing, what he's been circling, or what he's had in terms of his family, what he's done in somewhat production and everything, as opposed to what we saw in the past where you want to overdraft someone like a Jamin Davis because you like his character and you like his physical tools, but let's see if he'll go as a middle linebacker instead of being where he's supposed to be. I mean, there's two different ways of overdrafting players. One is kind of doing it based off pedigree, and it could wind up working out for an advantage, and the other one just set you back for a couple of years at one of the most important positions of the in the league.
I mean, so it's the old floor ceiling debate.
Are you better, Dave?
Yeah. Yes, a little bit. Yes.
Dave needed an event. Like, what is, I don't know if it's fair to say this, but Luke McCaffrey's floor, let's say, is he's going to be a 4th receiver. Like, he's going to put in the work. You feel confident he'll give it everything he has. He'll be a good 4th receiver in the NFL for 5 years, let's say. That's his floor. His ceiling might not be super high because, like you said, he just doesn't have elite speed or, some of the elite athletic traits. But it wouldn't surprise me if he puts the work in, he could be a good number 2 maybe for a couple years. I could see that being like a good ceiling for him.
Yeah,
that's
like, not unfair.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be a 1,500-yard receiver, but I trust the floor and work ethic thing. That it looks good for him.
And listen, the competition. I mean, in Washington for him. I mean, again, we mentioned De'Ami Brown,
right?
But who the heck are some of these other guys? Casimir Allen. Right. There's a undrafted free agent. Damiere Byrd. We talked about him earlier. I don't know who that is. Davion Davis. Dax Milne was 7th round pick, wasn't he? 6th or 7th round pick.
I was shocked to hear he was still on the team.
Yeah, Marcus Roseme Jackson, who Mitchell Tinsley's been around on the practice squad. Bryce Tremaine practice squad. Olmeed Zacchaeus, he's been in the practice squad. So they don't have a bunch of pros.
No,
bunch of like pros on this roster.
No. I mean, I look at it. I just don't see a lot of depth. And the other thing, he's still, I think, is McCaffrey the tallest receiver we have right now?
McCaffrey, he's up there. Let me give it a real quick
look.
He is 6'2".
Yeah, he's 6'2".
Yeah, he is the tallest one. Yeah.
Yeah, because, the last administration here really loved Hobbit receivers. That was their bag.
Hobbit receivers?
Yeah.
Guys who are shorter than Dave at 4'10"?
Yes. Exactly.
I say that like I'm tall. No. That's the funny part.
No, but Steve, you would fit right in with the receiver group.
That is true. I would.
Yes, as would I at 5'11". I would be right smack dab in the middle.
Just call it the Lollipop Guild. That's all.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? We did have some success with the Smurfs back in the day, so I'm not going to knock that too hard.
That is true. Very true.
I've sat at a table with Ricky Sanders.
Yes, you have.
And I've been around him several times, and I fit right in with Ricky Sanders.
Yeah.
In terms of height, physical appearance.
Yeah, height. That's about it.
Physical appearance is what I'm saying. Height. He looks like an average dude.
Yes.
Right.
He's not an average dude, but he looks like it.
Right. Well, he's getting up there in age. He might be at the average point, just because you age, you slow down. But
So I've said I'm going to turn. So my law firm had a flag football team, competitive, and I played on this team. We tried to get Ricky Sanders to play on the flag football team.
A ringer.
He was willing, but the league operators wouldn't let him play. They were like, Super Bowl champion, no.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, that is crazy. That's not fair.
Well, also, it was an old Ricky Sanders. I mean, I don't know if he can run or anything. He was willing to give it a shot, but
he'd be what, mid-50s by now, something like there.
More than that.
Oh well, yeah, because Gerald Green just turned 60, so Ricky would
be more like 60, early 60s.
Yeah.
So back then he was, this was years ago, so he would have been mid 50s or something,
Right.
But he still would have been way better than all of us. It would have been great to have him out there, it'd have been fun.
The problem is you probably would need to find somebody who could throw a ball deep enough for him.
That, or he'd like, tear an Achilles or something, for the stupid flag football game.
So one more little tidbit that came out of the mini camp. Coleman was playing left tackle with the ones, the third round draft pick.
It's only mini camp.
I realize that, but it's interesting that they're at least giving him some time.
No one from Tampa would have come about this. Look, here's the thing about Coleman. What's his name? Brandon? Is that his first name?
Brandon Coleman. Yeah.
They don't have a choice but to double down on him.
Right.
Because they intentionally ignored the position, and he's not someone who was looked at as coming in the draft as starting left tackle. But if it doesn't work, they're down to nothing. They're down to a guy who was a swing tackle, and everybody's going to point their fingers. So they have to double down on him and go. It's almost gaslighting. Look, hey, we've got our guy. That's what it is. So they're going to give him a shot because they don't have a choice.
They don't have a choice. You're probably right, sadly.
That's just brutal for a young quarterback right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You've been preaching that for weeks, Dave.
Yep.
Months.
We all have.
Yep.
Yeah.
Although it was a Brandon Coleman interview that got us that little tidbit that I shared with you guys on Twitter because I saw it online. It was Coleman who announced that Jayden Daniels got bacon covered or maple bacon donuts for the offensive line.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yes.
Oh, did you?
Yes.
See, a lot of you guys' stuff you put in our group chat. I have a real job. I can't just read all this stuff during the day. I see kicker
so
and bacon.
Apparently Jayden Daniels brought donuts in, and it was like good donuts, not like Dunkin' garbage donuts.
What's wrong with Dunkin' Donuts?
Right.
They're awful.
Are they?
Yes. They just generally don't taste good.
The only time I eat Dunkin' Donuts is when they bring them into work, and I just grab the glazed blueberry one. That's about it.
For free, yes. A free donut's a free donut.
So what's a food snob like? What kind of donuts does a food snob like you go for, Alex?
Well, if you're talking just in the DC area, Duck Donuts is probably one of the most popular. I'm guessing that's what they brought in because they're famous for their maple bacon donut. Krispy Kreme's, of course, the classic in this region. The hot fresh sign.
That's all over the South.
Yeah, it's all over the South, but like they've been in DC forever. But
didn't they start in DC? I thought it was started in the DC.
I don't know if it was started in DC. I thought it was started maybe in the Carolinas.
I don't know. I might be wrong, but go ahead.
Yeah. There are a lot of good local donut shops that have opened up in this region, though. There's District Donut. There's Astro Donuts and Fried Chicken, which is my all-time favorite. They make a bourbon maple glazed donut that's about 2,000 calories per donut. So don't eat more than one, and don't make them into a Luther burger like I did. You might die. And then, what's the Donut Run is one my wife likes, and they make vegan donuts, but all donuts are vegan, I think. I don't know. So.
I didn't expect an essay on donuts when I asked a simple question.
There's another one that just opened by my work I haven't tried yet that I've heard is very good. So.
And I no doubt you will. And you were right. It was did begin in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. So
I know my donuts.
Apparently so.
Oh, we do have a Shipley's in Maryland now, Steve. And for those who don't know, Shipley's is a big donut chain in Texas.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I don't eat donuts anymore, but yeah.
You do not. But
no.
I don't think Jayden Daniels went up to like Baltimore to get donuts. So it was probably not Shipley's. My guess is he went to Duck Donuts just because of the type.
Well, we are fortunate enough to have the Amish up here almost in any place we want to go. The Amish donuts are just fantastic. It's definitely more filling than it is dough on every donut you get.
That's because they use real lard in everything.
And trust me, you really want to only stick with one donut where you can feel your arteries hardening if you start biting that second one.
Yeah.
But they're so good, it's ridiculous.
Yes, I do miss going to Reading Terminal Market when I lived in Philly, getting like the good donuts and the real like bacon wrapped hot dog, or the hot dog wrapped in pretzel with cheese that they do.
Are we still talking about football?
Yes. Food is football or related.
Is it?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just got lost in there. It was a simple question. It turned into
back in the day, Steve. I think you would have liked a hot dog in a pretzel bun with cheese.
Maybe, yeah.
That sounds very you.
Yeah, I probably would have liked that, depending on the type of cheese.
Just plain old cheddar, usually.
Yeah, but like American. I never liked the liquid cheese, is what I'm saying.
Oh no, it's like it's normal cheese and it melts.
I wouldn't eat it now, but I would have then. Yes.
Yes. So anyway, that was the little tidbit I got from the Brandy Coleman review. Was about the donuts, and I'm
10
just
minutes
gonna
on donuts. That's what it turns into with us.
It does. So anyway, we do have to do our position group breakdown, and we're at that time of the show. So Steve wrote up the position group breakdown this week, and it is linebackers. So,
now I meant to publish this Tuesday afternoon, and I forgot. So
sorry,
you all
everybody.
will catch this probably, if I remember, Thursday afternoon, otherwise Friday morning. Okay, so the linebacker group. Let's start with the starters. Now, this group is very easy to see who the starters are going to be. There's no debate about the starters. It's going to be Bobby Wagner, Jamin Davis, Frankie Louvu. And the reason is, you can tell this, it's always easy for some of these groups because you have to go with the people who are making significant guaranteed money. That's who's going to get the first shot at it. They have, here's the whole group. Bo Bauer, Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, Jamin Davis, Keandre Jones, Jordan McGee, Anthony Pittman, Michael Walker, and some people will consider KJ Henry a linebacker, or Andre Jones a linebacker. I have him as a defensive lineman. You can throw him there if you want to. Point is, that's the group. So of this group, Bobby Wagner's got a $6.5 million contract. Jamin Davis is still in the last year of his rookie deal, 2024. This is last year, $13 million deal. And then Frankie Louvu is going with the really big contract, 3 years, $31 million. And the rest of them are small money. Jordan McGee's a draft pick, but small money. So those are going to be your starters. Now,
no question.
Yeah. Now, Bobby Wagner obviously is the biggest name in this group, but you have to wonder, why did the Seahawks let him walk after all this time? He's a Seattle legend, Legion of Boom, all of that. Why did they let him go? He's 34 years old. My guess is that Seattle probably thinks that he is in decline. I mean, 9-time Pro Bowler, all of that. But is he the Bobby Wagner of old? It remains to be seen. Jamin Davis, bust. but better at his natural position, outside linebacker. So let's stop there with those two guys. I should have stopped at Wagner, but you guys' thoughts.
Go ahead, Dave.
As far as Wagner, last year he actually wasn't completely terrible, having 183 total tackles, missed tackle rate of 4.2%. He's very unreliable in pass protection, as he gave up a pass rating of 114 against quarterbacks. But I think with Wagner, I think it's more or less not really him coming to the team to be that dominant force in the middle. I think he's filling that role, the leadership role that this defense just does not have. He still has something in the tank to give you for every week. And I think he's there to help groom a guy like maybe a Jordan McGee, possibly coming up to take his role going forward. And someone that Jamin Davis can work with to get him to the next level. I don't expect a ton from Wagner. I mean, I expect a lot of tackle, but when it comes to coverage and when it comes to pass rush, I'm not expecting a whole ton from him this year. But I think what he gives on the other side of it is a little more valuable for this team right now going forward, because let's be honest, we're not in a position to win anything this year. You know what I mean?
No, I think you're right. I think he is being brought in to kind of set a tone because this is a Dan Quinn guy, and Dan Quinn probably wants to have one or two, and we saw Rivera do this too, by the way. He brought in I can't remember the guy's name now, another 36-year-old linebacker to kind of say, this is what I want you all to act like.
Thomas or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, and I can't remember who it was that was talking about this. It might have been Jeremy Reeves. It was, I think, one of the defensive backs said they were joking around and making jokes and Wagner came in and he was like, stop acting like children and get to work. And
Right.
that is what you need, especially these young guys, man.
They need that, but they also need a guy who can come in and play the middle linebacker
Absolutely
position.
true. Yeah. Absolutely true. But I think sometimes people do underestimate the value of having like a true adult in the room every once in a while.
I think it's fair to say that this, they hope he's going to be London Fletcher Part 2, basically.
Yeah. No
and Wagner's way more accomplished as a career player than London Fletcher, by the way. I mean, 9-time Pro Bowler, 6-time first team All-Pro, Super Bowl champion, all of that.
Although when Fletcher came here, he was 30, not 34,
true,
35.
Yeah, true.
I'll pose it this way to you. It's like, because, I mean, the draft wasn't loaded with middle linebackers anyways.
No.
So is he an upgrade or downgrade from Cody Barton from last year?
Well, it remains to be seen.
I mean,
it's hard to say.
Just off of production last year alone, you have to say he's an upgrade. I mean, it's like I said, he's not here to be a Pro Bowl player. He's just here to be.
The preseason ranking would be Bobby Wagner over Cody Barton. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
All right, so Jamin Davis. Look, Washington turned down his fifth-year option, their fifth-year option on him, which tells you everything you need to know. He has found his footing a little bit as a weak side outside linebacker, but he's nothing special, really, at the end of the day. And Washington's going to let him walk unless he dramatically improves. Thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, I think Davis is, unless he can really impress these coaches. Yeah, I think the odds are he's gone. I think when you pay a guy like Luvu what they paid Luvu, he's going to be the face of that group for the next few years in all likelihood. It's just the economics of the sport, right? You can't have multiple linebackers paid big money. You can't have multiple, you can only pay 4 or 5 guys really on the defense at most.
I mean, it's not an exact science, but yeah.
Yeah, you're limited is my point. So,
and Frankie Luvu had $14.6 million guaranteed at signing, with another 5 or 4.5 guaranteed, in guarantees coming down the road. So he's a big money guy.
Yeah, he's your big money guy. I think he's the one that they expect to be the leader of this defense long term.
And the weird thing is, he's not a long-term career starter. I mean,
Luvu? No.
No, he's a 2018 undrafted free agent. He's 88 games, 39 starts. Panthers. So this is a guy that the coaches believe in and think he's going to develop into that elite starter.
Yeah, and he's had some growth. That's for sure. Like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And by the way, I mean it's obvious what's going to happen here is Wagner's a middle linebacker, Luvu's strong side, Jamie Davis weak side. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So
now when it comes to Jamin Davis and the article that I wrote that I published this week, there was a quote that I added in there that I thought was pretty interesting because Dan Quinn is really focusing on his versatility. And by that, what they're doing is they're working a lot with him in terms of with the defensive end on the edge. It seems like they really want to put him in a Micah Parsons type of role, coming off the edge to blitz the quarterback, be a sideline to sideline guy against the run, not really lean on him too much on coverage wise and everything. Although Parsons is a much better coverage guy, of course. He's a
much better player.
Everything, right.
Yeah.
But in terms
he might be the best player in the league in the next few years.
But in terms of just the actual pass rush side, I think they're really going to focus on his overall athletic profile in terms of his speed and his agility to get to the quarterback. I think that's where they want to focus him in the most on. So that would be interesting to see what his role is going to be this year.
He only has 7 sacks on his career, so.
Well, he was also never utilized the way that Dan Quinn looks like he's going to utilize him. I mean, let's be honest. He was used mostly in coverage. It wasn't until last year he was really used more in pass rush wise, and that wasn't even very often.
And he's just not very good I mean, you'd think he'd be better in coverage because of his athletic profile, but he's really not. And so, all right. So the backups, because I believe we need to move on. Do we not?
Yes, we do. We should.
All right. So the backups. The short version of all the backups is there aren't too many of these guys who are very experienced. But I'm going to run through a bunch of them and let you guys do thoughts. So Bo Bauer, undrafted free agent, Seahawks, 2023. He was cut prior to the start of 2023 season. He was injured, so he's never really been in the league. So he's a rookie, even though he was a 2023. Keandre Jones, 2020 undrafted free agent with the Bears. He's played 8 games in his career, 4 tackles, obviously minimal experience. Jordan McGee, of course, we talked about him, 5th round pick out of Temple. As a 5th round pick, you would hope a guy can kind of develop into a solid player. You're not expecting him to be a starter. Anthony Pittman, 2019 free agent, undrafted free agent out of Wayne State. He spent 4 years in Detroit, bounced around, active roster, practice squad. He's played 52 games, but just 2 starts. He's been active for 52 games, 2 starts, 28 tackles, so not very experienced. Michael Walker, 2020 4th round pick, Atlanta Falcons. He was with the Falcons and the Bears, then the Raiders and the Steelers. He's been around. 57 games, 38 starts, 220 tackles. So he's the guy who has some experience. Of all these guys, watch for Michael to be the principal backup and a couple of the other guys to go to practice squad. So I'm done. You guys.
Yeah, it's not. There's not a lot of guys. Like, it's a lot of youth. That's what stands out to me is just that I think they brought in a lot of young guys. I assume they're hoping most of these guys will be special teamers more than anything.
At least a couple of them, yeah.
It really does blow my mind how much turnover there's been on this roster because, like, none of these guys were here last year, right? Not a single one.
Right.
The only linebacker that was here last season was Davis. So that's kind of wild when you just how much they turned over this position group in 1 year. The one position group that our defensive coordinator and our head coach played, and we thought they'd be good at with the last administration. So
right.
I'll be curious to see. I will be watching a lot of these guys just to see who's got the raw speed. Because to me, what I'm always looking for in a backup is just that high speed play. Like if you're a big, strong, like slow plotting guy, I don't think we need that for depth. So
I think what you need to look for in that regard for guys like this isn't their 40 time; it's their 10-yard split.
Yeah.
These
Sure.
guys aren't going to be running downfield, and I don't have the 10-yard split for too many of these guys.
Well, I'm talking like in preseason. I'm gonna, game speed.
No, I get it. I mean, but if you want to look for a measurement, that's what I would. All I'm saying is that's what you would look for guys like that. That's all I mean.
Yeah.
I think for me, there's two things stand out the most. One, the special teams aspect and some depth and everything. I agree with all that. And two, we are a Frankie Louvu injury away from going back to what we had last year. Absolutely.
Michael Walker will be, first up, and there's no telling what you're going to get from him.
Right. I think we'll be in for a lot of headaches if Louvu goes down.
They were never going to fix every problem in an offseason.
Oh, sure, yeah.
They've made a dramatic improvement from the absolute Gorick that they had last year.
Oh, I agree.
Let's be clear. Last year, we only had 2 real starting linebackers to begin with. And then
neither one of them were all anything to write home about.
Right. But they were starting, they weren't all undrafted free agents.
It had to be the worst linebacker group in the NFL.
I think it was. And, at least now we have 3 starting linebacker caliber people. So
you count Jayden Davis as a starter? Yeah.
Yes. Just because he's a first rounder, I still will.
There you go.
So, yep. I'm not even going to guess who will make the squad, but I assume we keep 6, Yeah,
if we keep 6, so I'll take a stab at this. So obviously the 3 starters, Wagner, Davis, Louvu. And so that leaves 2 or maybe 3 more at most, probably 3 since it's a 4-3. I don't know. But of these, Jordan McGee's going to make because he's the 5th round pick. I don't think they're going to put a 5th round pick on the practice squad. And they need to have somebody with experience. That means Michael Walker. So then you leave Bo Bauer, Keandre Jones, and Anthony Pittman to fight over 1 spot at most on this group. And I don't know who to guess on those 3.
Yeah, no clue here, honestly. I'll just give it to who's the tallest? Oh, they're all the same height. Damn it. Yes. Continuing my joke of just randomly picking people for no reason.
Bo Bauer is the heaviest, so if you want to go with that, go with him.
Sure. Well, because they do like playing the strong side, weak side thing a lot. And
Bo Bauer's big enough to possibly be a middle linebacker backup.
Right.
He's a pretty big dude.
He is at 250. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's say Bo Bauer then for that reason.
Works for me.
All right.
Yep. All right, guys, that wraps up the show. We did it. And we will see you all next week. Enjoy the UFL Championship. I don't know what you're going to enjoy this week.
You'll be the only one to enjoy it, but okay.
Yeah. All right, guys. Talk to you later.
All right, later.
Bye.